Hello, everyone, and welcome to the St. Louis Days of .net. Sitting here with Gus Emery.
Hey,
My good
JJ, how
pal.
you doing again?
Good. I'm doing fantastic since 5 minutes ago. So, Nick, the one, the only, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
for taking
Thank
time
you for
out of
coming on,
your
Nick.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
For those
this time.
For those of you who don't know who Nick is, this is Nik Molnar. He's from the Glimpse project. Glimpse is a really, really awesome product that's free through NuGet that allows you to actually take a glimpse into everything that your website is doing. MVC,
Web forms, entity framework,
everything.
SQL Server.
Yep.
Name it.
Awesome. So I'm not going to hit that because we're going to hopefully do that on another show very soon. However, what are you talking about at StLouisDays.net?
My talk at StLouisDays.net is called. Wait, do we do cuts and all that kind of crap?
Not really.
No.
All right, we're rolling live for you. Do I look at the camera? Do I look at you guys? We should have figured this out. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm new.
This is called debugging.
Yeah.
Yes.
We just worked out some bugs.
We need to work on our performance. My talk is called Full Stack Web Performance, and I'm doing web performance. Literally, it's a speed race at an hour, all the way from the network up to the server, down to the client, JavaScript, CSS rendering layer,
Wow.
the whole thing.
Okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go watch this.
It's a sprint.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
8 a.m.
Well,
You can wake up, crack it down.
Yeah.
I'll be
Okay, I
there
can
too.
do that.
I'm definitely going to see your talk. A couple of the people that are actually putting this conference on have said that this is the talk to see.
Really?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
So this is the one
Worries
I'm
me a
actually going to
little
see. And it was said on our show before.
It was.
Yeah, Scott Spradling said it. I'm going to call him out.
He did. Yeah.
Yes, he did. So I'm going to actually come see this talk.
Oh, wait,
But-
you're that guy?
Yeah, this is that guy. Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
So why don't you give us the 2 middle tips from your talk? I don't want the high end, low
Right.
end. Just give us something somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
What are 2 tips that our users can do to
Like
speed
some
up their
takeaways.
website?
Yeah.
The middle ones. Well, the middle ones are the most common ones. They're the ones that you've heard before.
That's the ones I want.
All right, so compression and caching. You got to turn on compression
Okay.
on all of your static assets at least coming off the web server, right? We're talking like savings
JavaScript,
of 40
yeah.
to 60%, right, for free.
Yeah, JavaScript, images, whatever you can.
CSS,
Yep,
yeah,
CSS.
if you have SVG,
Right.
XML, whatever,
Right.
JSON, all that kind of stuff. Compression. And then caching.
Okay.
And really both of those things come down to do less, right? You want to
Right.
make the server do less. So, or I should say make the client do less, the browser, right? Less request, that's what caching is, right? You
Yep.
don't need to go back and get something that you already have. And the things that you do have to get, they're smaller.
That's actually a problem that I have on 2 different sites, which is too much, and not enough of what you're saying. So I can see why the talk is going to be so popular. Just because I would really like to know how to optimize that a lot better.
And believe me, you say they're common. They're probably not common to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Some people just do not think that way.
Yeah.
So here's a question that I have for you because I've actually seen this. Are there any third-party components that you know of that are not performant?
Okay.
That you would
Yeah, that's
recommend?
good.
Maybe not call out, but how about? Do you know of any, and do you know why they're not performant? We'll put it that way without calling out names.
Well, I mean, the biggest offenders are going to be client-side things.
Okay.
Right? I know a lot of .NET developers were very comfortable in C# land, and so we're going to think like, oh, maybe it's an entity framework, or maybe it's this or that. But the reality is like 80% of performance problems on the web are on the client, not on the server.
Okay.
So it's going to be things like your advertising platform, if you have ads inserted into a page, or if you're using all of these little like Facebook like or dig this or tweet that, share buttons. Those things are typically horrible for performance.
Yeah.
And so any of those kind of third-party things that you're like copying a snippet of code from website X and dropping it into your site, those usually you need to like go through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that they're gonna not screw you over.
So from a top level view, a little bit, I want you to summarize your talk in 5 seconds. No, I'm just kidding. No, from a top level view, I mean, how do you go about approaching that as a solution, right?
Yeah. So there's kind of a 3-pronged approach that you're gonna look at for that,
Love it.
right? Because the problem with something like that is it's content like these ads or these buttons. It's content that's generated by some other party.
Right.
So it might work good today, and
Right.
tomorrow it might suck.
Okay.
So the very first and the best way of doing this is what we would call RUM, R-U-M,
Okay.
real user metrics. And so all of the new browsers, i.e. 10 plus, Chrome, Firefox,
Sure.
they have they've implemented performance specifications, navigation timing, resource timing, user timing,
Right.
that allow you to write a very simple line of JavaScript, and the browser will tell you, here's how long I took to do everything to get this page to show up.
So it's kind of like F12 developer tools, but different.
F12 developer tools, but you can get at the data programmatically.
Oh, nice.
And then you can just send it back to your server.
Nice.
Really?
So now you have
That's awesome.
now you have your user on a mobile phone in South Africa. Well, you're never going to get that network condition. You can see what is the experience like
Right.
for him.
Right.
You can take that data across all of your users and aggregate it, and now you know basically where the problem is.
Nice.
Now,
That
to-
is
So then you
nice.
can target those problems.
yeah, now you can target those problems. Now,
Solid.
that's kind of what the problem is. The second problem is where the problem is
Sure,
or how to fix it. And so you'll use synthetic testing for that. So it's not real data.
Okay.
It's fake. It's in a controlled lab environment. But because it's a controlled lab environment, you can get a lot more information. You can isolate certain variables.
Okay.
So I'm a big fan of a free service called webpagetest.org,
Oh, really?
which will literally, you can throw a
I'm gonna use
URL.
it. I'm already smarter.
You're already done. You're
I know.
good.
I've already,
Yeah.
You're set.
That's it.
You throw a URL in there, it will give you all the information out, but then you can start isolating things. So, like, let's say it
Okay.
was Twitter that was giving you a problem.
Sure.
You can say, well, what happens if Twitter is slow by 5 seconds? And you can go in there and put an artificial delay on
Oh,
Twitter
wow.
and see, well, how does your page respond if Twitter is 5 seconds
Really?
slower? Or if they go down, would your page even render or would it blow up?
Oh, that's nice.
Things like that.
See,
Could-
I already learned something in this talk, and we've only been doing it for, what, 4 or 5 minutes?
Yeah, tops.
awesome.
Yeah. Would this may sound stupid? Usually, what comes out of my mouth does. Would it be the rollout of a page, for example? Would it be saying, okay, well, if it takes X amount of time for this to be delivered, how about it just look nice as it comes through?
Yeah, so you're kind of, I think you're getting at perceived performance versus actual
I could be,
performance.
yeah.
Like what, you could actually have a slow page, but if the user doesn't realize that it's
That it's
slow,
actually slow.
it's okay.
Yeah.
One of my big things.
I want to hear the other
when
prong. I want to hear the other prong. So say
Oh,
what you guys.
do the prong, and then I'll
Well,
state that.
the last prong is basically just taking these things and automating them, right?
Okay.
So it's the kind of stuff that you already would do with unit testing in a continuous and integration environment, right?
Okay.
So particularly
What's your
with,
favorites?
so particularly with the advent of Grunt and Gulp, there's
Okay.
a lot of things out there. So web page test has an API, so you can hit that service
Hot.
and run some tests, right?
Love
There's
it.
a lot of things that run on top of Phantom JS, right?
Yeah.
The headless browser, so you
Right.
can
Yep.
get the same kind of RUM information. Of course, it's not really RUM because you're not getting it from South African mobile user,
Right.
but
right.
you can see, did it get better or worse than the last check-in? And if you
Have
make
been to South Africa recently? Is that why you keep no?
no, it just seems like a place that has really crappy internet
Yeah.
for some reason to me.
Good, yeah.
I apologize.
No,
to all
I'm just-
everybody in Johannesburg is pissed at
I
me
know.
right now. But
Just wait till you come to our user conference.
yes,
yeah,
yes.
exactly. So yeah, that was the third prong.
Nice.
But as far as perceived performance,
Right.
there are a lot of tricks that you can do. So first of all, there's a book that's brilliant. It's all about the psychology of speed
Okay.
and how you can. Sometimes you just can't make things any faster, right?
No, you
Like,
just
Exactly.
you
you have a
literally-
limit,
yeah.
right?
There's no way you could get like that huge image that
Yeah.
has ridiculous pixels in it
Yeah.
down to the what
Yeah.
you want to get it to.
I'm,
right?
I'm going to interject here because this is what I wanted to
It's
say
your show.
before.
I'm just here.
Yeah. Anyway,
We don't need you
the
anymore.
thing that I try to push, is that if you can render a page and drop like some kind of a moving target that says, "Hey, I'm working," people are like, "Oh, it's working." Now you still have to hit metrics after that, but you gain at least a second or two, and that's tons in the web world.
It's
Or if
true.
you make people like what they see while they're waiting.
Yes.
I know that a lot of tests have been done, even with the most recent Facebook app that I checked out. The pull down, right? Something as simple as this spinning wheel or whatever is actually kind of fun to mess around with. You know,
Yes,
and it's just
yes.
it's those things that you can do as a dev to help stop bounce
Yeah.
right from your site.
And they're all, everything has to be tested, right? Like
Yeah.
there are large swaths of applications that put the little loader, the little spinner thing on there,
Right.
and people think the app got slower because now they know they're waiting. Whereas
Yep.
before they
Well,
didn't,
that's a good
they
point.
weren't told that they
Totally.
were waiting.
That's a good
Right.
point.
So like
Yeah.
a really good, this is a little plug from my own library here. A good way to do this is to flush your HTTP responses early, which is very difficult to do in MVC unless you use
Yeah.
my NuGet package called Courtesy Flush.
Say that
Oh.
again.
Courtesy Flush.
Courtesy flush.
Yeah, which will let you take, like, so imagine, so you have your HTML, right? HTML is the head section has a body section. The head section you're linking to CSS files, maybe JavaScript, hopefully not, but sometimes you have to.
Right.
And then the very beginning of the body usually doesn't change, right? It's like the same navigation on every single page. if you just flush all of that, first of all, the browser gets the head, and it can start downloading the CSS and all that kind of stuff while you're still running a query on the web server to build out the rest of the body.
And while you're rendering the grid or whatever you're displaying,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And if the user was like, oh crap, I didn't actually mean to click that link, well, you already sent down the navigation, so that's already painted, so they're like, oh, I can go back to the home page or wherever I needed to go. So they're already getting to interact with your page and do stuff like what you were saying, right? They have something to keep them busy, while the thing that they really want is being prepared for them.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I remember doing that in web forms all the time.
Yeah, in web forms it was much easier. The MVC pattern, a command-based pattern,
well, it abstracts it. So you're totally away from what's actually happening, so you have no control.
And you do all of the work before you render the view.
Exactly.
And that brings up another thing. So so I was just thinking about some consumer stuff, but even on the business side, I mean that's really hot. But the fact that, I mean, because the header, like you said, the header file's coming. There's other stuff coming, and the fact of the users only scroll. I forget what the percentage goes. How it goes down. But man, that really does. I mean, that speaks to a lot of different businesses and stuff, right? Because some people will just bounce right off of there.
Exactly.
And you're like, God, wow, what happened? I mean, it's because they were doing for the rest of the site.
So there's a red and white site that I go to all the time. Drives me absolutely freaking batty because it loads in sections and it starts doing this, and that is, you're trying to click on things and you're like,
and they're moving around.
What are you doing? You should render from top to bottom.
Right. Not from bottom to top.
The frame, and then top to bottom.
Yeah.
Right.
End of story. You should not be doing anything else, and I think it's a flaw in the site.
That's all it is. We actually talk about that a little bit tomorrow.
Okay.
About how the browser rendering engine calculates layout and the amount of time that you can measure in which it's doing that. And every time it's doing that jump, your CPU is doing a ton of work to recalculate the entire geometry of the page. So if you can just get it to lay out everything once, even if you don't see anything, but the boxes are all invisibly there, and then you paint the skin, the flesh on overwards, that's much better for performance.
Well, but performance and everything else.
Well, and usability. And that stops people from bouncing off and saying, well, maybe this is a virus. Because I remember that was kind of big. That was kind of big a couple of years ago, or about a year or two ago, is where people were like, it's taking a little bit to load this. Maybe there's some script running. I'm not going to stay here.
Yeah,
I'm going to bounce off and go somewhere.
And there's a lot of people who do that.
And the other thing is detection of what the screen size, right? Because the detection of, okay, it's an iPad, it's an
the whole
Android
responsive web design
exactly.
thing.
So you want to be able to still play in that arena and optimize, obviously, because that's what we do. We try to optimize the best we can.
Yeah, you're the professional. So what is better, detecting the type of browser and the machine and redirecting to another site, or doing CSS scaling?
Yeah, container type.
From a performance
only, yes.
It really depends. I will tell you that responsive web design, right, using the media breakpoints and CSS, has a really, really bad rap in the industry right now.
Okay.
Because that technique is so new and still being explored that people don't. Once they figure it out, they don't even take the extra amount of time to then go and optimize everything.
Right.
Yep.
But there are tons of responsive websites that are super fast. If you are responsive, Google will give you a little bit more juice than if you're splitting and having two different sites.
I noticed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I noticed
So
that.
that's a bonus. That's a bonus right there. Then,
It doesn't really have anything to do with performance. I would also argue that it's easier to develop the responsive. Once you've got that layout and you've got it, the breakpoints all working,
you're done.
then you're just done. Yeah, you have one code base.
Yeah, that's totally solid.
Yeah.
So what do you use tools wise? So you plugged your stuff. Is there any other tools that you use that are either yours or?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're trying to analyze will dictate the tool that you use, right?
Totally.
So, in general, the biggest offender for performance is the network, and so you're going to use something like Fiddler or the F12 tools that are built into your browser to analyze that kind of stuff.
Okay.
To even start the downloads, you have to render the server-side HTML, right?
Yep.
And so for that, you're going to use a CPU profiler. So, of course, I use my company's, which is Ant's Performance Profiler. But whatever profiler you want to see what the CPU is doing on the server to generate that HTML. So that's kind of what I like to think of as the installation phase of using a website, right? You type in url.com and you have to download all the assets. And once they're downloaded, now your CPU is running and executing JavaScript and CSS. And so now we switch tools again.
Right.
You still use a CPU profiler, but you have to use a JavaScript CPU profiler, which is built into the F12 tools.
Right.
And I prefer the Chrome tools.
I do too.
For rendering, CSS profiling type stuff
Okay.
to see where it's painting on the screen, how long, what the frame rates are of your page,
Totally.
which is weird, right? Like, I'm not a video game guy. My roommates in college, right, they'd be like, oh, we're playing Max Payne and we got 57 frames per second. I'm like, guys, I played
know.
Duck Hunt. I didn't have frame rates.
Bam.
I shot and it worked.
Got the
Yeah.
dog, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, right, exactly. But I mean, I love that story. That was awesome. But the other thing I was thinking about was that container situation and kind of browsers, because IE is still dominant, but we're seeing more productivity as far as being able to track and all that kind of stuff from Chrome. So is there any particular, like you said, extensions and other things that you use as far as that goes?
There's a couple that I use that's Chrome based, because
Okay.
all the real dev extensions right now, that space is all happening in Chrome.
That makes
Unfortunately,
sense,
I wish it was a little bit more utilitarian.
Yeah. That would
Anyway,
be nice.
oh gosh, I just lost the name of it. PageSpeed Insights was shipped by the Google team.
I have no idea how you remember that, but good on you.
Thank you. It's basically, if the viewers are familiar with FX Cop,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
it's a rule set that you run across the page, and it will
Gotcha.
tell you. And
Right.
by default, the rule sets are all around performance, but you can install additional rules, like they have a accessibility rule set for helping people with accessibility issues use your site and whatnot.
Cool.
The other thing, real quick before you go, is what are some of the biggest questions that you get when you go to conferences like this, as far as
Whether they be stupid or not.
Yeah, sure. So the biggest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the talk that I'm doing.
I like listening to stupid questions.
Okay, perfect. I'll give you stupid answers. Most of them are.
Fantastic.
The talk that I do tomorrow is mostly about here's how you see the problem in a measurement tool,
Okay.
and then how you fix it. So the number one
Love
question
that.
I get
Love
is,
that.
how do I do this on a continuous basis? So all this stuff I just told you about ROM and synthetic testing, all that,
Mhm.
I put that together in a new talk that I'm working on that I'll be debuting the first week of December in London.
Very cool.
So that's the number one question. Asked so many times that I had to make another session out of it.
Gotcha.
The next biggest thing I get asked about is, well, is Angular or Backbone or
Oh,
React,
man, I
is
love
that
that.
which one of those are the most performant? And the answer is, well, it depends on your application.
Yeah, it
but
depends on
now,
how you code
People
it.
hate
Yeah.
that
It
answer.
totally
I
depends
know.
on how
But
you code
it
it.
totally depends. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
it's like,
if-
tell me what I should do. No,
So-
I don't. I can't. That's
Yeah.
Seriously, you have somebody that coded it right and is returning 400,000 rows compared to somebody who sucks and is returning 12.
Right.
Guess what? The 12 wins every day.
the best language can be slow in the wrong
Exactly.
hands, and vice
Exactly.
versa. People make really good PHP websites, to my surprise.
Yeah, I know.
mine too.
Yeah, I know. I met a
Yeah,
PHP
yeah.
guy the other day, and I was like, I don't understand how
Really?
you're doing this
Really?
stuff. Yeah,
It's
I
still
know.
around?
I know. I was
What?
like, come on, you're killing
It's
me
like
with
VB.
Yeah.
this. So we're gonna post this up after the conference. But where can people find out more about what you do specifically and
Where-
follow you and
And where are you going to be next?
Yeah.
You said London, but go ahead and give
Yeah,
the
so
dates
I'll
and
be
stuff.
at NDC London, which is, I think, the 5th through 8th of December,
Perfect.
Yeah.
followed by Code Mash, which is the first week of January 2015.
Awesome.
And then, I don't know, they can find out more about me, well, from my project at getglimpse.com, personally, nickcodes.com, NIKCODES, and my Twitter handle, NIKMD23.
Okay,
I'm gonna follow
great.
you. So.
Thank you so much for coming.
Hey, thanks for having
I'm
me,
gonna get
guys.
my contact awesome right now.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care, everyone.